Okay, welcome everybody to the Creative Pois-On show. This is Tommaso Cartia. I'm the editor-in-chief of Creative Pois-On, and I'm here today with a set of brilliant artists. We are celebrating Pride Month at Creative Pois-On with a special edition of our hashtag Creativity Will Save Us series. And we're here with some of the protagonists. So we have actress, transgender activist, writer, producer, director, everything, Puya Mohseni. He is broadcasting from New York City. Then we have from Washington, D.C., photographer Thomas Clatteray. Welcome, Thomas, to the Creative Pois-On show. And then we travel south to Florida with Larry Buzzeo, a wonderful actor. So before getting into our conversation, today we want to talk about creativity, which is the main topic of our series, but also we want to touch base about how we all felt celebrating, Pride during these very unprecedented times, and then we'll try to navigate a little bit into what's the vision of the future for us and how creativity can be played in our artistic jobs and businesses, and how can we envision a future probably where we'll be needing to redesign new models for living and for both professionally and personally. But before getting into the conversation, I want to play for our audience a little teaser of our hashtag Creativity Will Save Us Pride 2020 episode.
When you go back to your mistakes, feel the death is the only way to save your fragile consciousness. Think about your actions and consequences. You're not the only one to hurry to make this change. Be free, yeah. You need to fall down. You need to come out. You need to fall down into your crown. That little miracle, faith within your hands. Faith within your hands. Faith within your hands. Faith within your hands.
Yeah, wonderful job, everybody. So I wanted also to mention our wonderful soundtrack by Alessandra Salerno, an Italian but also international singer-songwriter, Faith Within Your Hands, which is a title that we all need to think about right now. And also these beautiful videos, they are capturing moments of New York City Pride through the years by Claudio Napoli, another photographer, part of this wonderful show. But he couldn't be with us here, but we wanted to greet him, of course, because he did an incredible job with these beautiful visuals. So I want to start a conversation with Puya. And okay, so for creativity, hashtag Creativity Will Save Us, you played an expert from David James Parr plays La Penticle, and with actor Sebastian Lacoste performing a sweetly ill-fated love affair featuring a gay man and a transgender woman. Also, I love your piece because specifically in your segment, there's this beautiful monologue where you also as a transgender woman, you kind of like explain your relationship with the parents of this character and how they failed in discovering the transition that the character went through. So let's start exploring this beautiful scenario and understand how you felt in producing this in quarantine, because the play was produced in quarantine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, David and I have talked a lot about this play and kind of polishing the trans character. Mm-hmm. Well, the beauty of it for me was part of it is that the trans community also got representation in this play that is mostly about gay men. And the story really revolves around when this character was earlier in her transition, and she's kind of like trying to find where she fits in the queer community. and her relationship with her body, her relationship with her lovers, her relationship with her family. The two things that really struck me, one was when she's talking about when she came out to her parents the first time, that her parents saw her as the real her.
Mm-hmm.
And she also talks about it was the year that Brandon Tina was executed,
Right. Yeah.
and also the year that Matthew Shepard was brutally murdered. So, it's like, as somebody who's an immigrant, as somebody who came from the Middle East, those kind of storylines are not just storylines to me. They hit very close to home. Also, being a trans activist, there are still trans people of color being killed in disproportionate numbers to other members of the queer community, which is a tragedy in 2020. And for David to address all of these little things within the little snippets that my
Mm-hmm.
character had, it was beautiful. Ending with this kind of a lovely yet sad romantic interlude between my character and this gay man, and how they kind of meet, but the gay man realizes that, this person is a woman and he's not attracted to her. And when David and I talked about it, we realized that there's something beautiful while being sad. The beauty is that this gay man sees her for who she really is. And while we may not like the ending, that means that they're not going to end up together.
Right.
There's that moment of him acknowledging and affirming her truth. And there's this beautiful line that David had written that both characters say simultaneously. It was really nice almost falling in love with you.
Right.
Which I cried many times in all the takes that I did. But to have this story that, not every story has to have a happy ending to be a good journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because these characters, they found themselves, they found their truth. And at this time, they had the opportunity to be able to share that with other people as the full piece. That is the whole essence of it, is that sense of community, and how these different people who had felt lost and lonely and isolated now are sharing their stories with each other. And in essence, they're not alone anymore. And for my character as a trans woman to be in this all-male story, I feel it's a great move forward, because none of us live on an island. Right. And if our stories can bridge with one another, then hopefully that means not only in our entertainment, but also in our daily lives, there doesn't have to be a rift between the gay community and the trans community, or the lesbian community and the trans community, because we're all fighting for personhood and existence and respect. And hopefully we can have a future that, instead of us fighting each other, we can fight with each other for a better future for all of us.
Right, absolutely. I think that one of the things that struck me from the segment, it's that there are two voices, and also the fact that it was produced in quarantine. You had a chance to put them in isolation, which is real of the situation of today, but it was also real within their emotions as characters, because they're sort of like coming out scenes. But then the fact that these two characters could kind of overlap in a way, and so bring their emotions together in a beautiful transition, while you feel just them as human beings. And at a certain point, you even lose the fact that there's a gender there, but there's real love and emotion. A sort of love, which is not romantic in a way that we could imagine, but it's still love for two human beings who, in a certain moment of their lives, they are naked with themselves, and that's very powerful, in my opinion. And I know that also you're active in a multitude of different type of projects, always linked to the LGBTQ community. Do you want to tell us about it a little bit?
One of the things about being a trans actor, people always see the trans before the actor part. Pride Month, it was great. I did a play for National Queer Theatre called She, He, Me, written by Amal Raphael Khoury, a Jordanian trans man, with a cast of trans and non-binary actors of color, and being done with a collaboration between Dixon Place and National Queer Theatre. Well, that was very important to me because there's almost no representation of queer characters from North Africa and Middle East. So to be in something like that, to have the audience, these queer people of color, being able to see their experiences, maybe not all of their experiences, but just a hint of their experiences, and being able to, you know, kind of empathize with these characters. Well, that was very important to me because I had never seen something like that. So to be in there and to put that forward, for people to realize that they're not alone, that was very important. But then I also did a few comedic things. Everything obviously in quarantine, either done on Zoom or self-taping, and then people bringing those people together. But I love being able to work, and I'm sure the other people on this panel would also recognize there was a time that it would have been very difficult for an out queer person to have work in the entertainment industry, which is why a lot of people lived in the closet for the entirety of their careers. But to be an out, proud, very loudmouth trans activist and be able to work, and not necessarily just because of being out, but in spite of it, that is very heartening, because as an actor in my 40s, I know that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that was definitely not the case. And while there's still a lot of room for change and inclusivity, I would be amiss not to also acknowledge the changes that we have made and the pushes that have happened through generations of people to bring us to this moment that queer community has more representation in media than ever before, and a good deal of it positive, albeit still a lot of it is, you know, fetishized, trivialized, and seen through the straight gaze. But there are a lot of queer storytellers that are able to tell their stories in theater, film, and television, and I'm very happy to be alive and, you know, vibrant in this time and be inspired by other people.
Thank you so very much. We're going to go back a little bit on the future of your career later. We're going to move now to Washington, D.C. with Thomas Clatteray, photographer. Thank you so very much, Thomas, to be here with us today, and for your wonderful contribution. In quarantine, you really put your creativity into action with this collection entitled Stoop Sessions in the COVID Age, where you portrayed these families in front of their doorsteps. And I think it was an amazing, very touching, a very touching project. And I invite you all to watch it in our episode, but also on your website, where you put like a ebook, right? Is that correct? With all the pictures together. So tell us about this wonderful project and how did the idea came about?
Well, thank you so much. And it's great to be here, especially during Pride Month. I'm a photographer, and I will say in the beginning of the pandemic was spending a lot of time doing social distance walks and really felt like a solitary sport out there alone and not necessarily connecting with people I know, or even strangers, to strike up a conversation in the same way when you do street photography. And selfishly wanted to find a way to have connection with friends around DC. And the concept, super simple. A lot of people have done variations of this during the pandemic, but was to create a series of portraits on people's front steps and stoops, but really using that as a medium to have a conversation with and kind of mark out this collective experience.
We're able to hear you. Do you guys hear Thomas? Just to be sure. Okay, cool. Because I couldn't, but that's fine. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no worries at all. But just to find a way to capture this collective experience we're all having, everybody struck out charted out a different way to get through these difficult months for all of us. But there were certainly common themes, whether it was creating everyday rituals to cope and experience and stay connected, or just musing about what new normal will look like after the pandemic. And so it was really a labor of love to put together these portraits of friends, give those portraits to them as a gift to remember, as a memento from this experience, and also invite them to collaborate. Everybody gave me a poem for a caption, what this moment was for them. And it was to see the end product after several months of that project come together in a book I put together. I think I will be able to take it as a time capsule, and also draw on it when we're at post-pandemic, and see what we will remember and what we will learn from during this difficult time. So it has been. I finished the project. The conversation in DC was very focused on the pandemic. The month of June it has been a difficult one in DC with all of the Black Lives Matters marches and protests that we've had. And I think my goal has been now to pivot and find ways to further highlight intersectionality during this pandemic and how it affects us all. I think beyond this photo project, I've been thinking a lot during Pride about whether it's the trans community. This past weekend, instead of marching, for Stonewall, I watched The Celluloid Closet, and back to back with Netflix's new Disclosure documentary on trans representation in film. And I think that there are so many stories, and trying every way we can to highlight them and show dignity and representation, whether it's in a portrait project or in film or acting, is really is a real opportunity I try to lean into as an artist. So thank you for letting me be here.
Of course, it's a great project. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll move now to Florida with Larry. Welcome, Larry. And thank you for participating in our Creativity Will Save Us special episode with your wonderful version of What a Wonderful World. You sing this beautiful song, and in this, what you call like this quarantine karaoke sessions. I think it was very fun. And also we used some images that we shot together. I remember being in Fort Lauderdale last year of you on the beach, almost like an empty beach, because it was that time of year. It wasn't that crowded. And I think that blending the atmosphere, What a Wonderful World, and see like this, you breathing and walking beautifully into this, tropical scenario, was something that gives us hope that we can really go back to a new normal, but still feel like the world is a very wonderful place to be. So what can you tell us about how you spend your time in quarantine and how creativity was important to you to survive?
Oh, well, first of all, I want to thank you and David for doing this. I think this program is absolutely beautiful and important at this time. As for my own participation, I wasn't quite sure how an old man walking on the beach and a karaoke tune were going to quite fit into it, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm truly honored being a part of it. As far as what I've been doing during quarantine, I'm pretty active in the local gay theater down here. As you know, Tommaso, last year we produced your husband's play, Slap and Tickle, down here.
Yeah, exactly. So we're Slap and Tickle, New York,
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is save that theater, actually, because of COVID. We're not quite sure what is going to happen. I am in the state of Florida, and everything is open within guidelines down here. So what I am trying to do is we're brainstorming to try and come up with LGBT themed plays that involve maybe 1 to 3 people, and keep it in an atmosphere that is safe for everyone. 25 people possibly. It's only a 50-seat theater, so what we're trying to do is just create an atmosphere that everyone feels safe in, and we can still produce shows that are poignant to the LGBT community. So other than that, my friend Andy and I'm pretty vocal on social media as far as politics is concerned. And he said to me, instead of opening your mouth, why don't we get active and do something about it? So we put together a small team of local artists down here to to brainstorm and try to think of creative ideas to get people to the polls this year, because it's very important. I myself, I'm trying to use an LGBT theme, creating funny drag characters and such. And so we're creating like 1 to 5 minute little segments to try to motivate people to vote this year. Because as we know, it's very important. I mean, I think all of our rights are pretty much on the line with this administration. So yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been doing as far as that falls within the theme of pride, I guess you could say, other than trying to catch up on television and, just watching series after series.
Right. So how did you feel specifically during this time quarantine, like the celebrations of Pride and everything that's going on besides just, the Pride and civil rights, because there's a lot of turmoil in the country that just doesn't just involve the LGBTQ community, but it's a broader kind of like, it's very difficult to also to catch up upon what's really going on. So my question to you would be like, what's your point of view from Florida about like whatever happened from hashtag Black Lives Matter to the celebration of Pride and everything?
What's my point of view from Florida? I don't know. Florida is an interesting state. We have the Bible Belt basically up in northern Florida, but we have some very blue sections as well. I remember as an actor, I would do some shows at a theater up in Hudson, Florida, and we would go to a friend's cast party afterwards who lived in the area. And that's up in the Bible Belt. And I remember traveling through the wooded area, and I would see rebel flags hanging from porches. And of course, my first reaction was like, "Oh my God, they're going to hang me here and kill me." So, there's pockets of Florida that are very scary. So I don't know if there's an overall idea here in Florida, but there are some very very blue pockets. Fort Lauderdale is very liberal. There are sections. St. Petersburg, thank goodness, is very liberal. So they do accept the LGBT point of view. Did I answer your question?
No, absolutely. I want to just have a feeling from, because we're here in New York and we hear the news and everything, but I feel that firsthand kind of like look into what's going on in this place, because the United States is so huge. So I have this perception this time, we don't really understand what's really going on state by state. Like for example, I'm from Italy, and the news that the travel to Europe, even from the United States, are not exactly clear. There's a level of uncertainty and also that's magnified by the fact that anybody has the possibility to go online and post things. And so there's a lot of miscommunication around the world. That's how I feel personally. And I hope that the United States would be more united as they should be, as but that's just my little opinion. I hope that that everything we're doing, this month we're concentrating to before getting into the broadcast with Kuya, we were saying, okay, now it's Pride Month, so we're celebrating, enforcing our fight for civil rights and everything. But actually, that's something that we should do every single month of the year, and so I feel that we really should take advantage of this moment to go deep into what civil rights really mean for the entire world and be as united as possible. But I want to go back and to talk about creativity, talk about art, and understanding, because now we are moving slowly into new phases of the COVID-19. Of course, every state and every country with a different pace and with different possible scenarios. So, but one of the concepts that we have at Creative Pois-On, and it was the reason why also we produced the series Creativity Will Save Us, was to understand that a creative mind, whether it is an artist or every one of us, that we have this incredible power that it's about, the power of adaptation, the power of biodiversity, so to transform and to co-create it together, possibly a new future. So my question linked to creativity this time, it's more about the business side. So how much creativity can help us redesign our professional future? So we'll start with Puya and everything that's going on in your specific field, theater, movies. Also, we got like the bad news today that Broadway will be closed indefinitely until 2021, which is a very bad news. So I wanted to get a comment from you on this situation.
Well, the thing about Broadway, I don't think anybody's surprised. I mean, it's like, I know we see headlines and we are living in a time of turmoil and trauma. So maybe part of us wants to, it's like be traumatized by it, but I don't think anybody that's honest with themselves is surprised. As I was asking around, I'm like, can you imagine hundreds of people going into an enclosed space and sitting side by side? Everybody's like, no. So that was just, officially saying what we all knew. However, during the Pride Month, the 3 plays that I did, one for National Queer Theater, the other one was a private entity, and something that I did the reading for yesterday for Pride Plays, Michael Urie, of which, Slap and Tickle was also part of. Apparently, I'm all over Pride Plays this year. Yes. Well, last year it was a Rattlestick, but this year everything was done online, from the rehearsals to the readings. Yes, and to my fellow theater actor, yes, there's something missing. You don't have that in-person interaction, but it's a new world, Golda. It's just, it's like this is the world we're living in,
right?
And we're just adapting the same way when silent movies went into talkies. Yes. Some things disappeared overnight. New things came about. So I'm very much a proponent of this idea of like, future is coming at you at any given second. There's no way that you can hide from it. So you can either pretend that you're hiding from it and pretend that it's not happening, or you can embrace it and find a way to move forward. All of these projects that were either recorded at home or were done through Zoom, well, nobody thought that these things could happen 3-4 months ago. But they are happening. And while it is leaving something out of the equation, and that is that personal touch, I also want to point to the positive aspect of it, that had it just been done in New York, only New Yorkers could have seen it. Whereas when it was done on Zoom, people globally were able to see it.
Yes, that's a part.
And yes, it makes it difficult to have real moments with your fellow actors because you're basically just looking at them like through your screen. But I think for the time being, I have to do a couple of recordings, something for an Audible project. And this project was originally going to be at the in Massachusetts at the William University. We were going to have a 6-week engagement, but it got canceled because of the COVID. But now it has become an Audible project. So, there's no denying that we're in the middle of a catastrophe. Hopefully one of those once in a lifetime kind of things, but you can't just say, oh, well, it's like in another 2 months, things will go back to the way they were. I don't know if they will ever completely go back to the way things were, because the next time somebody coughs next to you, even if you're not going to panic and run away, that thought is going to enter your head. Does this person have X, Y, and Z? But I also think that, especially in our industries, being creative, we're always thinking of new ways of doing things. So I think whether it's theater or film or movies, there are going to be ways. Production on small projects is slowly starting to open up. People have to have some sort of a health certificate. I don't know exactly what that involves, but I imagine, getting tested, something like that. for people to feel safe, to be in enclosed spaces with each other. And there are guidelines that are being pushed forward because nobody knows how to deal with this, and we're all collectively finding it step by step. It doesn't scare me personally because I think we're going to find a way. It may not be the way we used to do it, and we may miss certain things from the way we used to do them before. But I have a basic belief that crying over what happened yesterday has no point, purpose, or effect. Whereas you can use that energy to try to find what is coming at you in front of you and how you can adapt to that and make it work for you. And, in our business, that's what we do. When we don't have a solution, we try to find one. And I don't think this is an exception to that rule.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to see it. Thank you for your hopeful response to my question. What do you think about it, Thomas? What would it be for you in your future projects?
So I'll say just generally, there is so much power in storytelling and connecting with others, and the art space, the arts give us a media and a community to do that. And I think that there are creative people in this world that are going to show their craft and find a way to connect regardless. But we are in uncertain times, and we have a tremendous amount of creative disruption happening right now. And wherever we may end up in new normal, in this moment of uncertainty and disruption, my biggest hope is that the powers that be that are making these decisions realize and do not undervalue the power of the arts. Absolutely. Because there are artists that need to be able to bridge, and there are investments that need to be made. There's a tremendous amount of philanthropy that needs to continue for us to still have our stories to tell on the other side of this. And we are in a public health crisis in this country. We look at the dignity of human people suffering and wanting to connect with those people. We have to maintain that net, and the arts being part of that. And I would be tremendously deflated to see the arts be on the chopping block earlier than other important bedrock pieces of our community. So for me individually, I'm going to continue finding projects as a way of distracting and healing, and also to connect. That being the challenge of this pandemic, is we don't get out there and in the theater seats and in the studio and collaborate as easily with other people. And I think there is a challenge in that, but artists look for the challenge and those who are going to be most effective. I'm excited to see when we have some perspective on this time period, what pieces, what projects really rose to the top as really representative of what this period will be. And we don't know but there are a lot of great artists out there trying, and so we'll see.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like that. Our goal also the show, the hashtag Creativity Will Save Us, was to be a testimony of what is happening. So a snapshot of this period in time that will be recorded forever, and the artists that we had a chance to collaborate with, and they become sort of like the natural mentors for the future, and to see how their minds and their creative spark kind of operates can really be inspirational for any of us to find new ways to deal with the unknown. And I think that an artist has that, it's from the beginning, because it's a journey into the unknown, be an artist. And so I think that's something very, very essential that we can learn from each one of you, and the beautiful things that you, like these lights that you spark into the darkness of this COVID-19 global pandemic. And so, so I wanted to also hear, Larry, about the future of your specific business. You're an actor as well. So how do you feel about it?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, being of a certain age, I've lived through the AIDS crisis. And so, I mean, I'm confident that there will be a new normal. You know, we will adapt. We will be able to still have our voices. What form it will be in, I have no idea. I said before that I'm trying to produce something as soon as September because the guidelines are different in Florida, which makes absolutely no sense since the death rate is much higher than New York. But we do have a governor that, anyway, we won't go there. But as I said, I'm going to try and keep it going. We're going to try and keep it going and see if we can. If things change, if the guidelines change, if people are or do feel unsafe, of course, it won't happen. But I'm going to keep trying to get the art out there, the word out there, if I can, during this crisis. You know.
Yes, we will all do, and we are here as a network. As a network, we are here for you, for all the artists. You know, so we have this. We were interviewed by this magazine, and I think that it came this sort of like tagline came out from this conversation, which it was, instead of closing venues, we wanted to open up windows. So I think that that's beautiful, and like I see you now, like in this little StreamYard screen, you're all little windows. And we are all opening up, our souls and bringing out there, and we're gonna find a way. I'm personally very, very positive. Sometimes not very much, but let's say mostly positive, and we're gonna make it. And so, envisioning the future, what's for you guys, like what's next? Like I want to hear a little bit of your short goals in your business. Starting with Puya.
Why? It's like start with honest. Okay, fine. Future, like Larry said, it's like none of us have any idea where this is going to go. We don't know if there's going to be a second wave. We don't know if things are going to close back down. This is what I tell my kids is, when you're around long enough, you realize like you make your plans, but the world goes out of its way to make sure that your plans don't pan out the way you wanted them to. So, as an immigrant, as somebody who's kind of like tried to make a life for myself, by myself, on my own terms, I've realized that the most successful thing I've ever done is this idea of like, you make your plans of this is my idea of what I want to do. And then be open to everything that happens along the way. Do we know that Broadway is going to open in 2021? We hope, but we don't know that for a fact. Right. Maybe it will change. Maybe the seating will change. Maybe CGI will become a much larger part of film and TV production. I mean, that was already happening, but now with some of the guidelines that are coming down where you can only have a limited number of people on set, so that kind of takes care of people who used to be in background. I've been on a few TV productions. They're usually somewhere between like 50 and 70 people on set at any given time, between actors and crew and everybody. So I have no idea how that's going to look. But there have been people that said maybe it will be like a summer camp when you are doing a production, kind of like everybody, camps together, you go in, you get tested, and then you're all going to be in quarantine together while doing your project, and then you're done and you go back. I personally would love that. I don't know how practical that is for long running shows. But for myself is something that I started at the beginning of the pandemic was, like Larry was saying, it's like you can only watch so many TV shows before you're like, oh my God, I just can't anymore. So I started focusing on things that I didn't have time for before. And I have invited a lot of people with saying, part of our lives stopped. Our entire lives didn't stop. Part of it stopped, the part that included, going to work and kind of like, doing the hamster wheel thing. but maybe that's a way for you to refocus your attention on things you didn't have time to do before, whether it was, exercise, eating better, learning a new language, learning something new, watching documentaries, reading books. And I kind of started, and that's my OCD. I had to start my own regimen, and it became a regimen of daily exercise, French lessons, thank you, Rosetta Stone, and vocal exercises, and doing things that I wanted to do, but I never had the time to do. And in that way, I invested in myself. And regardless of what happens with the pandemic, nobody can take away that for 4 months I've done that. And I'm taking a lot of those traits with me, because I think whenever you invest in yourself, there's never going to be a bad outcome, whatever that may be. Learning a language, reading a book, learning how to cook, meditating, whatever it is that you wanted to do but you didn't have time to do, now is the time to do it and find out, what that can add to your life. So in short, what is my plan for the future? I keep doing what I have control over, and what I don't have control over, day to day, I will figure out where things are.
Right. What about you, Thomas? Do you have any new project coming up?
Yeah. So I have been for, I think I'm 4 or 5 years now, embarked on a big project. I think it's pretty close to coming together. I've spent a number of years on foot with my camera in DC, and I have a mix of your traditional stock images of the monuments and the White House, and during happier times, perhaps, and Capitol, and also now representation in all 8 wards of DC, and putting it together, playing off of the importance of community, trying to capture a story of what it means to live in this district, and with a variety of perspectives captured, teasing people to the project with some of the traditional images, but once you're captive, showing how great and vibrant our neighborhoods are here in DC. So I think tentatively I'm going to call it District Scene, and at least that's probably next for me project wise.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to see it. And what about you, Larry? What's up next for you?
Yeah, I do have a few projects coming up in the sort of distant future. Aside from a show that we're going to produce at Empire Stage, hopefully in September, I was cast in Something Rotten locally, and what else? Irma Vep, The Mystery of Irma Vep. So I do have that. Of course, that's not until like March and April. So hopefully this thing will have calmed down by then, and people will be less insane about the whole thing. Other than that, I'm doing like Poya said, I'm working on myself. Physically, I'm working out a lot more. I got myself a home gym, and I'm doing whatever, right? And I'm trying to prepare myself as an actor, something I'm not really good at doing. I'm recording monologues and songs so I can submit. Just be ready for when the whole theater world busts open again,
Yeah.
So there's definitely a time of creative abundance, even though we stand into this pandemic. So it's an abundance of creativity that actually we had the time to put out. Like I would have never put out #Creativity Will Save Us series if it wasn't for this. And I'm very happy that we did. And that kind of like connected all these beautiful souls. And I think that nothing bad can come out of it as something just luminous and beautiful for the future. We also had some people online that are following us. I want to just say hi to them. Trevor Keller and David Parr. So if you guys have any questions
Hello, David.
Today, of course, we are happy to answer to your questions. We still have.
By the way, I have a series that's dropping on Amazon Prime and Tubi tomorrow. We shot it about 2.5, 3 years ago, it's a first season of a series called Big Dogs with some, big names, Lance Hendrickson, Manny Perez, and Brett Cullen. I'm in 5 out of 8 episodes, and it's dropping on Amazon Prime. So if you're looking for something new to binge watch, I mean,
yes, we're going to binge watch
to.
anything you do. I will binge watch you every day. I'm going to leave this broadcast open forever.
Someday you should let your audience know how you and I met.
Yeah, so that's another story. Another series. That's another series. Probably upcoming. We had also a secret project that it's secret to me, but we're working on a project, me and Puya, which it was wonderful. But we met. We met. So
we did.
that was the magic of that project. It was.
I still have the costume.
Well, it wasn't my school project, but yeah. So, okay. So Giorgio Consoli from Italy, a good friend of mine. We love you, Tommaso. Thank you so very much. We love you. And David Parr says, proud to be associated with this beautiful panel. Thank you so very much. But I don't see any questions coming up. So I just really like if you guys have anything else that you want to share with our audience before ending this beautiful conversation.
Can I be an activist for a second? I mean,
sure,
as if I wasn't the last
Please.
45 minutes. Today being the last day of Pride Month, I invite people to not take that as the last day of, being proud of who they are or celebrating their identity, but just, it's like maybe a starting point. Maybe having pride every day. That is one of my favorite hashtags, everyday pride. That you take that you seek your community, that you try to be a credit to yourself, to your community, and seek people who see you, validate you, and affirm you. People who educate you, people who help you be better, and also paying respect. Like, Larry was saying, there are certain generations of the queer community that sometimes get lost. People who went through the AIDS epidemic and came out, and also all those people who did get lost, but they had legacies, they had stories, they had contributions to the community. And I think it would be such a shame if their stories, if their contributions to where we are now, if that ever got lost. And also people who even came before them, people who were at Stonewall, people who did, the first riot in LA in, even before Stonewall in mid-60s. Not because we just have to pay respect to them just because they were there, but maybe we can learn from them and see how they dealt with adversity and move forward and persevered. And maybe that will inspire us in times of adversity, where we are, when we are, what we're facing right now, and realizing that we have the strength and the tenacity and the community to do it and pull through every day, not just in June.
Wonderful. Okay. That's the voice of an activist. Because I really feel very active after your speech. Yes, to be proactive. Yes. Okay. So, what about you, Thomas and Larry? Do you have anything else you want to share?
We didn't mention. I mean, I think we were all surprised to see the Supreme Court bar employment discrimination against LGBTQ people. I mean, huge victory. But I think in the times that we are in, I think it's important to relish those victories, to be grateful for the Puya mentioned the legacies of other people who got us to this moment, and also with the whether it's Black Lives Matter, the LGBT community, whatever fights are going on, to recognize the dignity of other people that have been at the margins, that the work is never done, and we're going to have to still stay, take pride, celebrate, and move forward and see how we can keep making things better. So thank you, and thank you for this project. This is being an artist in this time is critical, and it's just great to connect with other artists in this space and see what everybody is doing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That was our goal. What about you, Larry? What do you want to tell to our audience before closing up?
Okay. I guess the only last statement I want to make is pride isn't about, okay, we're proud of being gay, right?
Yeah.
We're proud of what we had to go through to get here, to be accepted. And I think that's a common misconception with quite a few people. I mean, I've heard people in passing and on television and wherever just saying, well, why do they have to celebrate being gay? Well, it's not about that. It's about the things that we had to go through.
Yes.
And they say, well, we should have a straight pride day. Well, no, every day is straight pride day, dear. So, and I guess that's about all I want to say. I want to leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think
totally. Yeah. We are all survivors in a way, because as Puya said, each one of us has their own story and their own way that came up to this moment in time in life. And I speak specifically about myself because I can't speak for you guys, but I have a story as a gay man, which is my story, and you guys have your own story. And I think that, and now that we are more free, in so many ways, but we can't take this for granted, absolutely, because each one of us fought their own fight in different ways, in different worlds, different scenarios. So I'm very happy that we are here and our voice is strong and proud. So thank you so very much to all of you for participating in our project. I want to tell to our audience today to follow you guys in all your beautiful projects. And want to give us some technical about Creative Pois-On. You can follow us on our website, www.creativepoison.com, spelled Creative Poisn. And then we have a Facebook page, Creative Pois-On. We have Instagram at Creative Pois_on. Then Ash Creativity Will Save Us series. You can follow it on our official YouTube channel, Creative Pois-On. And we have a final tagline that we always say before closing up our shows, which is ready, set, imagine. I want you guys to say it with me. Let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
Ready, set,
imagine. Thank you so very much, guys. Bye.
Thank you, Tommaso. Nice to meet you guys.
Take care. Be safe, be healthy.
Okay, Tommaso, kick us out.
I'm doing it.
I love you.